Good evening. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting, September 12th, 2024. We have a bunch of work sessions on our agenda tonight, and one public hearing. It's going to be very brief, which we'll have at 6:30. That's 1515 Main Street. First item is to approve or review and approve the July 18th draft minutes, which was the last meeting that we had. Anybody on the board have any comments, additional comments? Oh, okay. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the July 18th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Just can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's 3-0. Okay, our next planning board meeting is October 10th. Let's jump into the work session. First item, 224 East Main Street. This is the Performing Arts Studio. We've discussed this in the past. Georgia, you want to just talk about what's new or what's happened since the last meeting?
Yep, so they're still waiting for the plans to be drawn up. That was really the final step that they need to take. We just need to legalize what is existing there. They did ask for an extension to be heard on the October 10th meeting.
Okay. So I see the agenda says October 15th, but that should be October 10th.
Oh, that's when their extension, the 62 days, but
That's correct.
October 10th.
You're right. The extension ends the 15th, but the hearing is the 10th. Okay, so that's in effect, and we were just waiting for a floor plan on that, right? Okay. All right, let's move on. 111 West Broadway. Tom? You can use that for the time being. Lee Rosner is going to be late. He will be here, so you can share.
Okay.
You got to turn it on, though.
Yeah, Laura did, thank you.
Oh.
So the new business on this project, you remember back and forth, they were doing the outdoor patio area.
Mhm.
They were looking at replacing a railing, guardrail by the bulkhead, and doing an interior buffet station, and there was some screening on the roof that they needed to work on. So the ARC had comments on all this. They have addressed the concerns of the ARC. They are moving the kitchen exhaust that was coming out the side on the patio to the roof. That will be filed under a separate application. They put the railing in, a black post railing system that the ARC had requested that they did. They did put that on the drawings, and it does conform to the requirements of the code. They removed the enclosure around the Velcro door, and they're going to replace that Velcro door with a more flat type of surface that's on there. And the Japanese knotwood, that's like a kind of like a very invasive, it's like a bamboo almost. It's been damaging the bulkhead. They're going to remove all that. They're going to repair the bulkhead as much as possible. They extended the screening on the roof to cover all the equipment that's up there. Again, from the other side by the brewery and by the Mill Creek there, you won't see any of the, it'll be screened for the most part. And they provided a screen at the back of the patio area to block it from the storage and the freezer. We did receive a letter of non-jurisdiction from the DEC for any of the work related to the bulkhead and the patio. They have provided the drainage. We did get a letter of sewer availability for the work for the buffet. They will have to file separately with the Department of Health Food Service for that buffet station, but they need planning board approval to get that application in there. So there's a little bit of a sequence and you're going to ultimately need to do to get their building permit. But at this point, they've satisfied the planning department's concerns and code requirements on this. So I did put together a draft resolution on this.
Okay.
I think
All right.
we're all given a copy of it.
You want to take a minute or two to read through the resolution? We need that note on the landscaping, the guarantee or warranty for 2 or 3 years on the landscaping. Is
We're
there
not-
any landscaping?
We're not putting any
Screening?
landscaping.
It's just
in. They're-
screening,
They're
right?
cleaning it up and putting screening in, yeah.
Screening, okay. Okay to me.
I do have a question.
Yep.
You're already on the sewer system, right?
Correct.
So when they went, oh, thank you. So when they went to find out,
They went to
was
Suffolk
it for
County.
additional capacity? Is that what that was for?
Yes, for the
For the buffet?
correct.
Okay. Does a buffet generate that much?
We just wanted to make sure that it was done that way. It was just a formality. It was like an S9 form, and they did. It was in your reports. I did copy you with that. I think they got it back in 23, February 23 or March 23.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The dumpster enclosure?
Yeah, there's a dumpster on the property. It just needs to
Do
be
we
an
know
enclosure.
what it will look like?
Well, it has to conform to the village code. It's in the back.
All right, so do we have like a set, just one set thing, or?
There is actually drawings in what the enclosure is supposed to be in the village code.
Okay,
There's no real design to it. It's a fenced-in enclosure.
Anything else, comments? Good, okay. Got a motion to approve the resolution as written.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay. Next item, 100 Oakland Avenue. That's Deirdre, that's you. That's the solar panel on the roof of the existing commercial building in Upper Port.
Yep, I'll just bring up the plans. We didn't have a hard copy, but these are the plans sent this morning. Let's see if I can make it bigger. So they changed the design of the solar panels. They don't need the exhaust. There was a hole in the solar panel display.
Right.
Originally because there was an exhaust that was coming up from it. In doing some research within the building, it was originally for a bathroom that's no longer there, so they're gonna be able to take out the exhaust and have it just a flush, running bond style along the roof. This is what the ARC had agreed with them on and discussed with them. The panels will be like that. They were able to fit, I think, a few more panels than originally because of that odd kind of hole that was within it. The only request is there is still questions about the enclosure. We would like to see an enclosure. It's part of the possible resolution if the board sees fit to approve it. Which brings back to that we have not received an updated survey. We will have to in order to close out the building permit. That's one of the conditions on the possible draft resolution, is that any enclosure to properly screen the meters that are on the side of the building will have to be within their property lines.
do we know what they would look like? That's where I'm just stuck.
Yeah,
Like,
so I think that's where it depends on how much room they have to play with. So that's why we were giving them a little bit of leeway, because if it's something where it just is like a metal kind of container that comes out and wraps around it, it still would be something versus having nothing and having the meter still exposed. But we're not sure how much room they have to play with that area, but we just didn't really want to keep dragging the application along to an
I
extent.
get it, but if we don't have, like, why haven't they submitted a survey?
I'm not too sure. We've asked the property owner, we've asked the Greenleaf Solar. The one they've submitted is just an older survey, and it's not to scale, and it's kind of difficult to even read. Yeah, there's no dimensions for where the building ends and where the property line ends, so.
Yeah, so the resolution is contingent on both the survey and the enclosure.
Correct.
But once we set the resolution, we can't, if they come up with an enclosure that's whatever, if let's say it's bright pink, like, they
Well, it's
could do
supposed to
whatever
be-
enclosure they want then.
Yeah, but I think the
Once-
architectural
once
review
we-
committee did have comments about it making it unobtrusive, that it's not an eyesore for when people drive up
I
Oakland
know,
and
but
things like
that's
that.
so, that's not.
Yeah, there's a lot
That's
of,
definitely left to the person to determine. I
Yeah.
guess I'm just hesitant because one, they haven't submitted the survey, and two, like it would be nice to know what it would look like.
oh, yeah.
So-
Or
Well, I
be
think
able to
it's
have a say in
also-
what it would look like.
Well, if their application is dependent upon giving us this information, can we not look at it and say, can you come back with something that's a little more conducive to?
Yeah, I mean, we could hold off. We don't have to do the resolution at all.
Right,
It was just
but
if we wanted
we did the
to.
resolution, then it's kind of done, and they can kind of put in.
Can they, or is it subject to approval?
That could be a condition that, the design is subject to the board's approval, and it could be something that gets brought back. That's
That's
something that the
fine.
board gets to
Yeah, that's
decide
my
on.
only.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just, there was so much,
because then they can put in whatever.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And why not just let them? All I'm saying is, why approve it if we want them to come back with information anyway?
Yeah,
I would, I mean, just, they don't have it, they didn't submit it, I don't believe there's anybody here to represent them.
No.
So, I would
yeah,
just say,
no, that's fine. It
Yeah.
was just in case
I
he
understand
did show up and he
the-
had a
yeah,
plan.
I understand the
I mean, it's
idea of
just in
trying to
case.
move things forward.
Yeah.
However, if they're not moving things forward, then why is
Right.
the onus on?
We all know that this is a site plan application, there will be conditions on the map. The map will not be signed until the conditions are satisfied to the board's satisfaction, if I can use that. So when they feel their conditions are met, they're gonna bring the map to the board for signature. If the chair looks at it and says, the pink enclosure is not what we had in mind, he's not gonna sign the map, we're gonna continue the deliberation with the applicant.
Okay, so
We
that's a
have-
possibility.
we have the final
Do it the
say.
front set.
Okay.
And staff should look at it before it comes to us, so it'll be
Okay.
two sets of eyes looking at it. Yeah, so we need to actually add the wording in the resolution, you think?
I can add a condition
Yeah.
just to make sure that that
Yeah,
is.
I mean, you mentioned proposed enclosure shall be within the property lines. Maybe that's the place to also add that the approval of the enclosure shall be by the village.
Yep.
Or, in general, by the village, I think would suffice, because that'll be both.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Everybody comfortable with
Mhm.
resolution as amended? As we just amended it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I'll motion that we pass as amended. Who moved it?
we're doing it now.
Second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
you.
thanks. Okay. Okay, next item, 1600 Main Street, that's the Seven Brothers Deli. Tom, you want to talk about the updated, or updates since our last meeting, updated plans regarding the tote location and enclosure?
Yeah, so we worked back and forth with the architect on this, and we gave him a couple ideas. Kind of, if you remember what we did with the halal place, and they really had no
Mhm.
area for the dumpster. This will really help solve the problem, that dumpster being left out in the access way that's behind the building. These can be moved by a single person. I think I include a copy of the totes that were in there. They'll have them in an enclosure. They gotta maintain that enclosure as per village code. And on scheduled days, bring them out for the garbage to be picked up. So that's been satisfied. The other part of this, I had an initial concern was with the health department on the expansion of the deli. But in talking again with the architect and with information provided to us,
6:30.
so we'll share.
Yeah, you can share the mic.
I'm gonna share. So with the information provided to us, they got a permit and an inspection from New York State Agriculture Department for a market. So what that means is the food is prepackaged off-site and brought to the site, kind of like a 7-Eleven. That is what that whole operation is. When I looked at the plans again, yes, the deli portion of it is not being expanded. and that is going to be market. When I did contact the food service, just to get a clarification to make sure they had no jurisdiction on this, and I was told that when they work with the agriculture department on areas like this, the agriculture department comes in and does an inspection and sees an irregularity, they will contact the health department, and then they will decide who has ultimate jurisdiction, if it's joint or who has the lead agent on it. So at this point, that part has been satisfied.
Okay.
I think I copied you on the email with that from the agriculture department and all that. The only thing that's open really on this right now is the ARC with the front facade change. They want a little bit of time to look at that. They are closing in the former entrance to the barber shop, was it? Barbie might be better. It was the barber shop, okay. They're closing that in and they want to put a window in place of the door and remove the vestibule that
Right.
was there. But the ARC does want to have comment on this. They requested a little bit more time on this. The other items have been met, so I would hope we would get them in the next week or two. Do you know when the ARC's?
If I could just interrupt,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I think we discussed this, but staff, when we receive an application, wants to make internal referrals to various
Mhm.
committees and internal departments. So on our own initiative, we made the referral to ARC and asked for some preliminary comments. They have not received an official referral from the planning board, so you may want to refer to the ARC officially to trigger them to give you back a written response, if the board is so inclined to get the ARC's official comments.
Yeah, I don't know that we'd want to do that. It's a removal of one entrance, correct?
That's correct.
I don't know that it has any I mean, it's an existing building. We're not looking, I don't think, for an upgrade to the facade of the building. That could happen in the future. But I think in terms of just getting it underway or getting it through a review, we'd be interested, I think, in what they have to say, but I don't know that we want to make an official referral to the ARC. I don't know. Anybody feel differently?
Well, the rendition that we received was definitely an upgrade to what's there.
Mhm.
I don't know if I
Yeah.
call it an upgrade. As an architect, I wouldn't say it was an upgrade. They're making a modification to it. My fear would be, it might just look a little cookie cutter if they don't match it correctly with what's around it. You know, and they just fill it in with something different. And that's the one thing that's unknown. But, you know, you're dealing with existing conditions and new materials being put in there. That's what you run into.
I'm sorry.
So they are changing the facade or they're not
They are.
changing?
They are.
Okay, so did you want,
I mean, technically they are.
Right, but it's not I mean.
It's de minimis.
It's
Yeah.
not in accordance with the comprehensive plan where
No.
we're looking for,
No.
consistency with facades along
No.
Main Street, so,
No.
yeah.
No, in this case, no. It's de minimis to the overall.
Right, because where that closed, where it used to be the barber shop, there's a step up. So they're going to just,
It's going to be this one here.
hmm,
You're filling in that, and they're gonna put a window, get it kind of match.
Yeah, because I mean, they've got the, what do you call that, the overhang or the top portion is spread out over the
That's
two
same- that's same as
doors.
it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's one unit as it by itself. Anybody have any other comments on?
I have some questions, not on the facade,
Mhm.
if it's okay. Okay, so, the alley in the back with the
Correct.
dumpsters.
Yes,
They're sharing the alley with 1610. That's
Correct.
where their dumpster is. So these rollaways that they intend to use, can they be tucked away so the garbage man can get in the back
yes,
of the alley?
yes.
And they have a place to do that?
It's on the plan. If you look on can we pull down the plan now?
In 1600, right? Dumpster detail? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let me zoom in on that area. This is the alleyway that was getting blocked.
Mhm.
They're putting them back in here.
Ah,
These are the totes. They're smaller, so they can fit in there. Dumpster wouldn't fit in there.
okay.
So in this case here, they can fit those totes in. And they'll be brought out to the gate, put in their cars, pick it up, and they got to bring it back.
Who-
It's all enclosed.
who removes them to pick it up.
That's on them. They're gonna have a service contract with the Carter, the garbage company.
So then it's, the onus is on the village to make sure they put them back.
I had that in there, yes, I put that
Okay.
in there, that, code enforcement will have to, I mean, the idea works, and then as long as they conform to it, the halal guy seems to be doing it, and hopefully this is a,
I think it's an improvement of what's there now, because they,
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
but
sure.
then.
Yes.
The totes are probably gonna be in the
in the alley.
alley. I
Yeah.
mean, who's gonna bring them in and out? How
well,
often is the
here's the
pickup?
thing, is if they, they're on their arrangement on how much garbage they generate,
Okay,
okay? These things aren't cheap, so if they leave them out, someone can take them. It's on,
Okay.
for who's then to bring them in and out,
okay.
And their agricultural designation.
yes.
I was under the impression that you were listed as agriculture because they have fresh produce in their little grocery store.
Well, it's more a market, so it's prepackaged foods, not so much going to be like fruits
Well,
and things.
it's been many years since I've gone in there, since
Yeah.
we closed the business and have been retired.
Yeah.
But it was open cases with fresh
Okay.
tomatoes and lettuce and
and-
yucca.
And if they do that, it is part of the agriculture. They will, because that comes off-site and brought there. It's not being processed or made there. The
Okay.
deli portion is. That's they have the grease trap and other things with the food service, with the health department. So this is strictly an agriculture. They do yearly inspections.
Okay.
They come in and see that they are actually producing, making, like they take those tomatoes, start chopping them up and making salads or whatever it may be. Then they will contact the health department, who then will come in together and they will decide who has ultimate jurisdiction over that.
Okay, but it's okay if customer comes in, buys a tomato
Yeah.
and, yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Where's the grease trap? It's in the, you can see it right there. It's existing.
Drainage, any drainage issues?
They're not changing the amount of drainage going to anything. It's all pre-existing.
Okay,
We're not adding
so
on
this
to the
is,
building.
it's just an extension of use, not a change of use,
Correct.
essentially?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And the parking, it seems
Again, I
like,
put it in there with, based upon, with you having the parking within 200 feet and the other things that went on. Again, this doesn't trigger a new parking calculation to be done.
The acknowledgement of parking in a municipal lot that is within 200 feet,
Yes.
is that a courtesy by the village or is that in code? So it's a courtesy right now.
It's not consideration here.
We're counting it in this application?
That's what was put in prior, because this was originally handled by Lisa.
That is not in code right now. I think that we need to address that some. Whether they get forgiven for that,
Mhm.
because they had a previous arrangement. I don't know that the board
Yeah, but I would think on this, we're not changing the use. It doesn't trigger that parking to be recalculated.
even though we're extending, we're making it bigger.
Yeah, well, it was already retail, now it's retail again, so it's,
Oh.
yeah, it's not,
Is there an action? We can contact the village attorney, the planning and zoning board attorney, and just get a lead on that, but.
See, it was
I
always,
think what staff is saying may be correct, that they do have that credit, for want of a better term. There is no change in the use, there's no change in the parking requirement, but again, we're gonna reissue an amended CO for this, because they've expanded the use. So I just wanted to, I want to bounce that off the
But
attorney.
the prior use versus the proposed use, there's no intensification.
Mike?
Oh, sorry. I'll repeat. The prior use versus the proposed use is not going to result in an intensification of a parking requirement.
No, I guess not.
I don't see how it's an issue.
and is it seating going into that space where the
No.
barber shop used to be?
no, there's no seating, it's all case, if anything, I think it'll be a decrease from the amount of people that were going into the barber shop to this. It's a less intensified use.
Okay,
Because they're putting in freezers and cases and display shelves. If there was a thought of an intensified use, I think we would look at it for parking. But I don't see that in this, in my opinion.
well, just to let you go, I used to shop in there because it's very convenient, prices are great and wonderful food, and you had big barrels of beans, and it was really cool to take the kids in there to see all this stuff, so
Okay.
it's really a great place in the village, you know, especially uptown.
I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
You know, understanding the market use of this now, rather than expansion of deli, I think is a benefit to the community and neighborhood.
Yeah, and especially with all those apartments going in,
Get some quick food, quick shopping.
definitely.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
So I could put a resolution together on this and circulate it to, I was just wanted to know your direction with the ARC. So
Yeah.
I will put that together and we can circulate that and
Okay,
condition on a couple of things, yearly inspections, things like that, and
Yeah.
the garbage gets maintained.
okay, that sounds good. Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
You're
all
welcome.
right, thanks, stay there, though.
Yeah.
We're gonna backtrack, it's 6:36, we have a public hearing, that was adjourned, so I'd like to reopen the, public hearing tonight. It's, 1515 Main Street. It was an application, for a pet daycare, called Earth Dog, and Tom, maybe just briefly update us on what's happened.
We received correspondence back from the applicant that they want to withdraw this based upon the comments from New York State DOT.
Okay. All right, so the applicant is withdrawing the application. On that note, I think all we need to do is close the hearing. Can I get a vote to close the hearing?
Motion to close.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. I think I'm in the next one too, or no?
I gotta. Hang on one sec.
Is 115
Pine Hill Woods?
Yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda, Pine Hill Woods, 6-lot subdivision. We haven't had this in a while.
This was actually, as I look back in the resolution, Cindy, you can help me out here. I think it was in 12 was the original resolution?
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
So the property was sold.
Yeah, I remember when we reviewed this. I think maybe, Cindy, if you just want to read in the particulars on this, just so that everybody knows what we're talking about. Yeah.
Pine Hills Development, Pine Hills Road, tax map number District 206, Section 18, Block 1, lots 11.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The zoning is RB2. The applicant is William Dollard, and the applicant is requesting a reduction in the bond amount for the sale of the properties.
Okay. Thank you. Tom?
So my staff report, as you can see, I did a pretty comprehensive inspection of the property. I've been monitoring this for the duration of it as well, with site inspections, assisting the builder on this, but it's kind of stalled. And I think at this point now, he's looking to sell the property, so he's looking to get a bond reduction, which we have done in the past. This board has done that with St. Charles. So based upon the inspection of the work, and I have the original cost affidavit that was prepared in 21 with the cost, I applied the credits to work that has been performed. And work that has not been done, whether it be retaining walls, street lighting, asphalt has not been put in place. I applied an escalation factor of that for, we spoke to a couple contractors. It's been 3 years since that has been done between labor and materials, and we came up with a reduction to here. I mean, From 182,000 to $243,219. So, little less than half, is the reduction on this. The utilities are in place and stuff. My major concern on this is if we, give him this reduction and we approve this, he is, lacking the SWIP reporting
Alright.
that is required by the DEC. I've contacted him on numerous occasions. He has not provided that. It puts the village at risk, and that really needs to be, before I put any resolution together and present it to this board, I want them brought up to date. They need to be on site, and they need to be filed with the village.
Okay. Before we get into any board comments, thank you for doing a review of the bond, because normally in the past, we've actually done it.
Oh, okay.
But
I had the
you-
numbers, so, yeah.
You had the numbers and you contacted for information, you contacted contractors, so you
Yes, I
got
did.
escalation
Yeah.
factors. And,
Yeah, we averaged it out.
that's-
There was a little bit different between material and labor. Labor obviously being the bigger factor in this, so.
Yeah, yeah. There's one comment I had, I saw there's a site distance restriction where the street comes out to, what's the cross street there?
Oh, it's Pine Hills Road.
Yeah, thank you. It's pretty easy, isn't it? Where the street comes out, I believe there's we need a stop sign there. I
Yeah,
think that was one of the comments.
Yeah, it's not an active road yet.
Yes,
So
correct.
stop sign, I factored that in the cost too. That's in there.
A stop sign on Pine Hills also, I believe. If there isn't one already, because there's one, was it Edgewood that comes out there, right? I think it's a three-way stop now. I just don't remember.
It's not a three-way
not.
right now.
All right.
There's no stop sign on that now.
Yeah, we need an all-way stop there, a four-way, because those roads are gonna
Yeah.
line up pretty close.
Yeah, and they're not done yet. It's not an active
yeah,
site yet.
Yeah, so
I
we
would-
just have to remember that going
Yeah.
down the road.
Just before this goes into any building permit for any house, the site work needs to be complete to the satisfaction of both this board, us, the fire marshal for fire access. There is a hydrant on site, just to get emergency equipment up there. If somebody gets hurt on the site or a fire develops within one of the construction sites. So, there is significant amount of work, including those stop signs that need to be done before,
Right.
before that can happen, so.
Okay. Any staff have any, board members have any comments?
So looking at all the pictures, your new bond, thank you again, like Ray said. The new bond amount also includes all the fixing of the things
Yes,
that you
yes, so
noted
there was
and
a moving of the fill figure that I put in there, because
Okay.
they've stockpiled the fill. The unfortunate part is that fill has now been overgrown with weeds,
Mm-hmm.
so there is a landscaping number I applied to this as well.
and curb fixing, it looks
I
like
put-
you
yeah,
had that.
yeah,
And
I
okay,
took a-
so all of this
I
has
gave
been,
them, I
okay,
gave them about 80% of the curbs, there's 20% that need to be either done or repaired.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to make a comment. Due to the obvious signs of neglect with the site, that it's gone stale or stalled is the right word to use. I think it may be prudent to set aside some additional dollars for future restoration work or.
That's why we have the bond in place.
No, no, beyond what the bond is for. I mean, things could deteriorate further if it's neglected. That's my concern.
So are you looking for like a percentage? Like
Yeah,
add 3% in case they go another year and we account for 3% inflation?
Or
Is
maybe
that
a
what you
little
mean?
more than that.
Okay, I mean,
things- just saying.
That's something
Yeah, I
we
understand.
don't normally do. We establish the site criteria, and we put a bond to that. It's a performance bond. They have to perform the work. It doesn't mean it needs to be, the bond won't cover it being completed. It'll restore it. There's significant numbers in it to restore the site. So that would mean ground stabilization, removing the mounds, hydroseeding if need be. And it can remain without the asphalt on there for now, with some mitigation, because the drainage is in place. They just need to, raise up certain areas in there and remove the dandy bags that are in the catch basins. But I don't normally like to speculate that they're not going to perform. I understand there's a history with this, but I would leave that at your discretion.
I mean,
We can add a factor in there. Restoration, we can call it, and I can put another,
I mean, after a certain amount of time, you know, if it stays stale for 2 years, would you then add a percentage of the or like even just for inflation? Bring in, you know, some
we
kind of
go-
factor,
we'd have to go after their bond.
Wait,
yeah.
how about, is there an expiration to the bond? Like we say we allow this bond, but it's for a year, and if you're not done, you have to come back and we have to reissue the bond? We have a year expiration? Would that work? Would that,
I thought, yeah, but we can, if
Okay.
that
but
can be
that
done,
might
that might be a condition
solve,
of reducing the
right?
bond. That could be a
Yeah.
condition. I could see that working a little bit better,
Right,
and that'd be a little motivation also to get it done. when
Right.
it's
right? Because
right.
then if it expires, then they have to come back and they're gonna know it's gonna be bigger, larger. Right? I don't wanna step on your,
Yeah, I'm not sure, what the proper method is, but I
Use your
just
mic.
concerned.
okay, but I was just saying to use your mic. Um, the only thing that I'm a little concerned about is right now, if it stays the way it is, you had mentioned it, the drainage. Everything from that road, if I remember right, tends to run towards Pine Hill.
That's correct. But
So-
there is drainage in place, so that there are
But
4 areas.
it shows they're all, I mean, okay, does the road have the appropriate crown so that it's taking the drainage, bringing it over to the curb line and then running it down there?
That was done prior, that was approved back in 2012, that
Understood.
design work, so we didn't re-review that. They
No,
put
and
it in
I'm-
per the plan.
I'm not looking for review. What I'm saying is, okay, you've got raised, catch basins a couple inches above.
Well, they're above the sub-base, or even
Right,
below
but
the
the
sub-base.
but the sub-base is what's existing. I mean, the guy isn't gonna come in and raise up the inch and a half that he needs to.
Well, no,
He's
that,
to look,
you would do that as if you engage, if it was the responsibility of this board to restore it, I would have them, that would be
Understood.
part of the work to do.
right. My concern is, right now, a majority of the stormwater is gonna bypass the existing drainage, run onto Pine Hill and further down the street. There should be some means, maybe at the entrance, for a temporary well, leaching pool or something.
It's what the SWIP covers, Stormwater Prevention Plan.
Right, but then he's gotta, okay, so you
Gotta
look for,
maintain it, yeah. That's for any erosion or runoff during the course of construction. That gets terminated, gets filed with the DEC, a notice of termination, once 80% of the property's been stabilized and the work has been completed. Otherwise, it remains open and the inspections need to be done by a third party.
so
And
have there been any fines or anything since they haven't done?
they haven't submitted a SWIP.
no,
Yeah,
they have, no,
so
we do
how
have
many
SWIPs.
years have-
We stopped receiving them in, I think it was June.
From these guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're monthly, right?
No, weekly.
Oh, weekly.
Yeah.
Weekly slips?
It's over an acre of property we're affecting.
Huh?
With the storm we had a few weeks ago, 9 inches of rain, did anybody go inspect and see
My pictures are taken this week.
this week? But
Yeah.
do we know offhand, did
It didn't
everything go
seem like-
down?
It didn't seem anyone down at the Pine Hill. I mean,
So it was retained on the property?
yeah.
So it worked?
Well, it's at capacity, we'll call it. Some of the silt fencing is being stretched and some of the silt and sand is a couple inches from the top of that. So that
Got
needs to be remediated. Some of it is ripped. So, if another event comes, but it did contain it.
All right, so we're gonna include a factor on the, for the bond? Or-
I'm gonna ask Jim Berg,
Oh, okay, okay.
and then I can put together a resolution with that and
Well, you have that, and then you have the SWIP he's got to provide.
yeah, and yeah, at this point, I'm getting a little frustrated. It's like every week or 2 weeks, I do call him for it.
Are there no repercussions?
Well, we have a bond in place.
But we're talking about reducing it.
Yeah,
When do
Right.
call that?
yeah, we have to look at it internally. We got to speak with the SMO. We'd have to review that with the stormwater management officer.
Right, because right now, I mean, I just think it's lacking in that there is nothing across the face of the road. So what's in the road is basically running out onto Pine Hill.
I mean, the good thing is, as you can see, it's mostly sand.
Right.
So
But that's-
it's contained in it on site.
Excuse me.
And they're benefiting from that, but I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Right, so then we'll wait to hear from you.
Cindy, did we send this report to the applicant?
Yes.
Have we heard back from him yet? Okay. So he's aware of this, and in there, I state the SWIPs need to be put in place. I will continue to follow up with him.
Is,
We will confer with legal and see what can be done.
is he the second owner of the
No.
property?
Yes, yes, he is. So he bought it from the person that originally had it approved from this board.
Mhm.
And then he started the work there, COVID, I think, not COVID, they had death of the family. Trying to remember back. And it slowed down the process, for a couple of months. And then I don't know what happened. It just has been no activity there. They did do a good job opening the road, putting utilities in, it's clean. I can say I've seen worse. So if you could drive past that part, you'll see it's, they did a nice job repaving that portion of the road.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, next up is 1 Reeves Road. Ms. Deirdre, this is a site plan amendment. Cindy, why don't you read this in also, because it's the first time we're talking about it.
Is this the dance studio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Vacant, though. Jeez.
This is in the files. Brilliant.
One Reeves Road, it's a site plan, change of use and conditional use application. The location is the vacant Amy Tyler Dance School. Suffolk County tax map number is section 17, block 4, lot 12. The zoning is RO residential office. The property owner, I don't have that on the agenda because I just received that deed today. I believe the new property owner is, that information. The United Way of Long Island, the new property owner. The contact is Allison Carpy, Town of Brookhaven, Commissioner of Housing and Community Development. The description is a proposed 2-family residence. And tonight, we are introducing a new application.
Okay, so Deirdre, why don't you tell us all about the application, since it's new, it's a little different, and we just got these renderings.
Yes, so we just got them recently. It was previously the dance studio. It's in, I believe, the RO? Yes, the RO. So one of the conditional uses in RO is a 2-family house. So the town of Brookhaven wanted to purchase the property and put a 2-family house in. This is just preliminary to kind of give the board a heads up that that's what they're going to be coming in for. And just also to be mindful that there is an access easement to the housing development in the rear. We're not sure if there's any comments that the board wants to make now, or if they want to wait till the full application comes in. And then we can do a more in-depth, but it's just kind of to get a feel for the board's opinion so far.
You said there's an access easement to the property in
Yes.
the rear?
I
Yeah,
could for
sure.
the apartments.
Yeah, but that
That's their property technically.
isn't that
So
on
the road
Reeves
is on-
Road, right? Reeves Road is the access to that, isn't it? I
But
thought.
then
But
the
the
road
FCC
to the
yeah.
apartments is,
Oh, Vantage Court in the back.
yeah, that's on their
Okay.
property. Is the access to the two-family going to be the same U-shaped driveway?
I mean, that's, oh, the applicant's here.
Oh.
Why
She's right at.
why don't you come on up? Maybe just introduce yourself and.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, as the applicant.
Or was it?
I think it was this one.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Put it back on.
wasn't me. I turned mine on.
I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, that this is a preliminary review. The applicant came and discussed it with staff. We discussed a few things. The applicant did bring in several different versions of elevation, but staff didn't want to make a quality decision on which elevation that we thought. So we thought maybe if the board looked at them, you might be able to give them more direction. I don't think that the applicant has really located this on the site yet. I think they're here really looking for a conceptual discussion. So
Okay.
this is a pre-application
Yeah,
conference.
that's good.
Yeah,
We
so,
should get more of these,
yeah.
right?
I mean, my main concerns would be access, and because it is right now with the U shape that's there, it's very close to 112. So accessing and going in and going out, egress, would be, I'd be interested to hear how that's going to work. Parking. Looks like there's garages, you know,
Yeah.
drainage.
Yes.
Any other?
Before you answer, who are you?
Oh,
Hi, I'm Allison Carpy. I am the Commissioner of Housing and Community Development for the town of Brookhaven.
okay.
So yes, thank you very much for inviting me tonight. I do understand that this is a preliminary review, but we are here to take your comments and see what you would like and design it the way you would like us to design it. So we're open for any options. Absolutely, I understand about the coming in and out of the driveway. I know that the house, the way it's situated, it does have a circular driveway. I would think that we would definitely take that into consideration, the way that people come out, and probably maybe shift the house a little bit further inside of Reeves, so that way people aren't coming out of the driveway as if you were going on to 112.
Right, yeah.
So yes, we would definitely take that into consideration.
Okay.
Since this is the town of Brookhaven, do you have a specific clientele in mind?
So we, through our department, we get federal funds through the government. So we're going to be working with a not-for-profit organization to actually build this. They'll be maintaining it. And what we're thinking is some sort of like a senior housing or special needs, you know, disabilities. That's the type of families, two families we'd like to put in there.
I got a question from staff. I was looking at the RO zoning under conditional use for two-family, and there's a provision that seems to limit the change the footprint of the house. Have you looked at that at all? Can't increase the degree of nonconformity, and I just think it should be talked about today.
Yeah, so do you mean, the part where it says no construction shall be undertaken which would result in an increase in the degree of non-compliance with existing bulk regulations? That part?
No, I think I could pull it up. It was
It's right
under.
behind you.
You have it?
Yeah. Was it this part?
Yeah, that was it. That's okay. I think I looked at it too quickly, and that's fine.
So staff could clarify with the applicant, we believe the existing structure is coming down, and the new structure would be built to code.
The zoning code.
Correct.
I mean, you may not be able to change how big is the existing building? Pretty decent size, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Will this
Actually,
one be smaller?
Yeah, believe so. It is going to be smaller because it's pretty long. Yeah.
And the amount of property that's there? Is it over an acre or?
I do believe so, yes. It's a pretty big piece of property.
2.3 acres.
Yeah, we have plenty of room. And we're very aware of the access behind it going into the
Condominiums.
the condominiums that are back there, which is fine.
For the record, 2.64 acres. So that,
That's
So
significant.
that includes the access way and the property across the street?
that includes both sides of the easement that goes
Right,
up.
right. Would there be any thought in changing the ingress and egress onto that access way? Like, could you get, rather than coming off of Reeves into the property, if it could be, just to get it away from that intersection, if you could make the entrance, you pull into the entrance for the
Vantage.
community, Vantage Court, and then have the residents enter on and off that way, rather than hopping onto Reeves to get in and out. It might, you might have to reconfigure the internal parking and driveway, but I'm just throwing it out there. Just thought maybe something to consider.
Everything is done on paper, so
Yeah.
it's really what your choices are. That does go up a hill,
Right,
so you want to maybe take that into consideration.
right.
I think we would ask the applicant to look at that. I think that's an easement, so though it's not a town road.
Well, that's.
It's
that
not a
was my
village street.
question. It's not a dedicated road.
I don't
No,
believe
no,
it's a
that would
dedicated
be-
village
that would
street,
be-
so that would
No.
be a negotiation between two
Between-
property
oh,
owners
okay.
to go into their easement.
Right.
But I do like the idea of reconfiguring the driveway
Mhm.
to coming out on Reeves proper rather than very close to
Yeah.
25.
That was,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I agree with you on that as well, too.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a substantial existing parking lot there, right? I don't know how many spaces are there, but it's pretty good size.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can
4 or
see it
5.
from the aerial.
Actually, I think it's 8 spaces.
Yeah, it looks like both,
Yeah.
looks like both sides of
It's
the
on both
road,
sides.
part of the driveway.
Yep.
So majority of that will now be landscaping.
Right, I think it
And
would be
then-
the designer's intent, it would be the preference of staff, and leave it
Right.
to your discretion, but we would rather see the new construction in the envelope of disturbed area on site and not disturb any more,
Yeah.
maybe increase buffering between some
Is-
of the sensitive receptors, things like that.
Is
Right.
there enough of a slope to necessitate a dry well at the end of the whatever driveway there might be?
Don't know yet, but we'll
Okay.
look at that when we
Because that's a
start the design.
possibility. That's what we're requiring of every,
Yeah, absolutely.
Any new development, we take a look at that.
it's a certain
Well,
slope.
it's over an acre,
Yeah.
so stormwater is gonna be through a SWIP, so we're gonna take a hard look at that.
Okay. Great idea.
Yeah,
Thank you.
agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you. We look forward to your comments, and like I said, whatever you want us to do, that's what we're gonna do for you.
Now,
Thank you.
do we have just one rendering or multiple?
I only saw the one that you had up there.
Yeah, I only see this one.
What
Ah.
is with okay, would the floor plans inside remain the same and we're looking at different facade renderings?
Pre-app.
So
Yeah, fine.
So on the other renderings that we have, no, because, one of the ones is an upstairs, downstairs.
Mm.
Another one is a really long one, which I wasn't. I have to pick what I like. The other one was just really, really long, and I just don't think it's gonna fit nicely on the property, especially with your
Mhm.
suggestion with 112.
I like this one
Whatever you
very
guys
much
like better.
myself, but I would like to see the others.
Absolutely.
We
Can
have
we
them
get
in
a-
a file downstairs.
Yeah.
We'll-
Oh, absolutely. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I didn't bring them with me.
Yeah.
I apologize.
We'll get
Okay.
we'll circulate those to you. I
Yeah.
think staff would recommend perhaps maybe a sketch plan or something preliminary, not designed too much, but addressing some of the concerns and.
Yeah, more so on site, not so much floor plan, but like the building envelope.
Right.
Right.
And where you plan on putting driveways, curb cuts, things along those
Yeah.
lines, setbacks to property lines.
We have ordered a survey on the property, so once we get that survey, we'll be able to locate it and for your
That's
review.
what we really need to start with, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I think from the discussion here,
I did, I turned it off. Turn the mic
All right.
opposite of each other.
okay.
Yes. Yes, that is another one. And that's more, you know, as you can see, upstairs, downstairs. So yes, we can also do this one as well too.
And I believe there was one other, sorry, I believe there was one other alternative that showed
It was
one in
more,
the front, one on the side entrance.
yes, yes.
Initially,
And, and are they all approximately the same square footage for
Yes.
each unit?
Yes.
Do you know offhand?
They're about, I want to say, I actually have square footage. I want to say maybe about 2,000 square feet,
Oh.
1,800.
Two bedrooms.
Three bedrooms.
Three bedrooms.
I think from the discussion here, we were talking about maybe one driveway where we have the horseshoe there. We eliminate the one closest to 112 and maybe have a single driveway come out where the end of the horseshoe is. That would be the west end, west end, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
we have 2 points of motor vehicle turn, so we have Vantage Road that comes.
Yeah.
up, And we also have 112. Somewhere in between, safe distance for both would be where the new apron would be.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we're gonna use either of the horseshoe aprons, or maybe a new curb cut.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
right. That makes sense. Yeah. Yep.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we'll wait for Barbara to come back.
Chair.
We did everything.
Did we do performing arts too?
Mhm.
In the stakes. Oh, right. Oh. I know, like, you already did the transactions that as amended, but if you have any questions for him, we should.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, Mather should be last. Okay. All right. So. Is it? Okay. All right, we have a representative from 100 Oakland here, so maybe why don't you come up? Maybe, Deirdre, you can summarize what we talked about, and maybe, we're looking for views of that enclosure, what it looks like.
Yep.
And also the survey, property survey, we haven't gotten that yet, to see if it actually, where the property line is, but to the next property, the adjacent property there.
So the survey, I think the survey we provided, it was just too old and not clear, so we need an updated one.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll reach out to the property owner, Nick,
Okay.
for that.
This was the resolution that I drafted up. We were gonna do it as amended for the board to still see, because I think there were just questions about the enclosure around the meters, and so just wanted to make sure that it blended in with the nature and character of the neighborhood and didn't become more of an eyesore than the meters are now.
Okay,
So that was just gonna be an added condition within the resolution.
okay, so I brought pictures today of a Uline outdoor utility cabinet. And sizing wise, they make them in all sorts of various sizes to be able to
Mhm.
be wall mounted and enclose all of the equipment that's gonna be on that exterior wall.
Okay.
Most importantly, this cabinet cannot be locked, which is important to pass fire marshal code. It can't be locked, can be accessed by anyone at all times, which is important so that if they're in the event of an emergency, those utility boxes can be accessed. The solar can be shut off and serviced or whatever. So that's one update for the exterior wall. And there are other colors and kind of, there are a million different outdoor cabinets out there. So, you know, this is just the one that we researched and found and thought would look, you know, look aesthetically pleasing
It- Uh,
on that.
Is it plastic, wood?
It
What's
is, it's
the-
like a plastic, it's like a heavy duty plastic.
Okay. So
on-
then, as
oh, I'm
it,
sorry.
sorry, as it ages and if it gets moldy, clean it. Because
Yeah.
that's my only problem with all the plastic, is it
I
gets.
actually have the Suncast version of this in my
Mhm.
yard. And it's great. It's been there for years. It doesn't, it doesn't get moldy.
You know what I'm talking,
Yeah,
right?
but I
Like
do
that-
not, but if it does, you take a little Clorox
And you
and
just
wipe
clean
it down.
Okay.
But what would you do? Take the back off? Because these are enclosed, so you would have to cut out the back to put it over the utilities?
Yeah, so this specific brand is specifically for being wall mounted and to go around various outdoor
okay.
boxes. So it's made
Yeah.
with the back already
What-
off.
Already off. And mine I can lock, but this doesn't have the little holes where you put the padlock through?
This does not have that. Or if
Okay.
it does, we'll make sure that it is not locked.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the critical item is the survey and where the property line is.
Okay, yep.
Yep.
So I'll make sure that we get an updated survey and submit that as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, dimension wise, we just need the dimensions where it is, right?
Couldn't we make a resolution and, no, well, or finish the resolution, accept it? Did we accept it? We did.
Yeah, we did.
We
Yeah,
did.
we accepted it with the condition that we approve this, and
Right.
then we got a copy of the survey that showed that there was sufficient room to put this on the building without crossing the property line.
Right, I'm just wondering if we can move it ahead and just put a condition in that this container has to be within the property line.
That's a condition.
Okay? Okay, all right. So why do we have to wait for a survey?
We don't,
It may not be on the, part of this
It's a-
coverage may
it's a
be on the
Real
adjacent
tight
property.
line
Yeah.
where that property
Right.
line fits,
Yeah.
and depending on where it is. You know, you gotta, I think there was like a 3 or 4 foot sidewalk on the side of the building.
Yeah, if you look,
Depending on where.
there's the street view,
There
there's
you
just that gravel patch, but the survey's old and it's a little hard to tell where the property line ends. So that's where we just want to make sure that they're not encroaching on the neighbor's property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Good.
Awesome. Anything else to discuss?
No,
No?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you have a copy for us?
Yes. So, I'll send you another. There's 3 copies of the full set.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thanks. Next up is 115 West Broadway. This is actually, Cindy, why don't you read this one in too, since it's new. It's a new application.
One 115 West Broadway site plan amendment. The location is the vacant McDonald's property. Suffolk County tax map number is section 12, block 7, lot 6. The zoning is the C1 commercial district. Property owner, American Quartet LLC, care of Janet and Tom Hayes. The description is the proposed removal of the outside walk-in freezer located in the rear of the building to create space for parking. The proposal calls for 7 parking spaces to be located to the south of the property.
Okay.
Okay, what can I tell you now? Cindy just told you everything. Now, if we can bring up the site,
Yeah.
we can bring up the site second. I think you're all familiar with the property. It's right next door. The subject property is 0.23 acres. We know it's situated on the south side of West Broadway. I think that the brief staff report that I gave you, the preliminary staff report, just goes through some of the project history on the McDonald's building. Let's see. We made some internal referrals to the fire marshal and the building department when we received the application regarding seeker. This is a type 2 action. When we look at this, staff had some comments. I believe the applicants are here. Okay, so questions if you want to ask. So let me just go through what we've observed.
Where's the walk-in freezer that they're
Okay,
removing?
so the walk-in freezer is in the back
Okay.
of the building, and to the left of this slide is Village Hall. To the bottom of the slide is Mill Creek, and then the recreation part of the village lot. You can see to the east then is what we refer to as the fish market, and then there's Sagar, which is further on. There are interesting aspects that are shown in plan that you don't see on the site, and that is a gore strip, if you will, and we can define what a gore strip is in a minute, as well as an easement that's granted to the Suffolk County Water Authority. So there are two strips of land in between the subject parcel and the quote fish market to the east of the project. So when we took a quick look at this, and again, this is preliminary, and these are just things that we're noticing, the building is about 32,000 square feet in size and originally required 32 off-street parking stalls. The proposal is to provide 7 stalls, so there is a shortfall of 15 stalls that we need to address. Do they have any pre-rights to that, or do the applicants have anything in their records that indicate that they have some sort of forgiveness for those things? So that's one issue that we need to investigate is you had an existing use, it required 32 spaces, they got an approval to operate. How did they address those deficient spots? So we need to work with the applicant on that, come to a decision on that. The access driveway is actually limited. If we could go to the site plan a second. Okay. The access way on the property is shown in the drawings as 13 feet, but it doesn't jive with the plans that we have. The plans are sent to scale, but the parking stalls are wider than the 13-foot access strip, so that doesn't make sense to us. So we need a better plan to scale. Let's see as I go through this here. Okay, so I indicated there are some legal instruments that we need to investigate. That's the Suffolk County Water Authority easement and what rights are granted to the Water Authority and what restrictions might be granted to the owner.
Andy, do you know the purpose of that water authority easement?
We do not, and I think we need to get that language to determine what that is.
Essentially, that connects the creek to.
It does connect to it
West
goes,
Broadway,
it
right?
runs the entire length to the back.
Yeah.
There's a structure back there, but we're not
Oh, there is.
able to determine
Okay.
what that is. It's off-site.
Wait,
Did you
there's a water
go to
authority?
the bottom, Deirdre, if you can?
Water authority easement.
That's all. See that?
Little
I'm not
concrete
quite sure what
slab.
this is yet. We'll determine that as we get into the application, but the gore strip runs to this, and then the water authority easement, I think, is off-site on the adjacent property. But all that land is being used as a reasonable access way to come into the back of the McDonald's property. So the only thing that is a guardrail. There's a guardrail over
I
here,
don't even see
running
that.
down between Gore Street, right?
And then on this drawing, the freezer isn't even shown, right?
On this drawing, the freezer was removed, the freezer would have been here.
Okay. And then I saw an email or something asking for an opening between this property and that property.
In some of the original pre-application consultations we had, the applicant was asking if it would be possible to open up access onto village property in order to create circulation. The village reviewed that, and the village is not inclined to allow that to be opened for reasons that the Department of Public Works has identified, and the village had some concerns as well. So the village is not inclined to open that. So that remains problematic back there. We think that there are a few things that we can do to the site plan to make the circulation a little bit better as we work through.
Are they keeping it restaurant?
There is no use proposed at this time. They are trying to set the building up to market it.
Okay.
And parking is an issue when you market buildings, so they want to make the parking better than it is today. And they will do that by removing, and again, I'm speaking for the applicant, but they'll do that by removing the freezer, adding the 2 spaces that the freezer took up, and striping the back so it's more obvious how the parking should be arranged back there. They come up with 7 spaces. You can see the asphalt driveway. It shows that it's 13.1 feet. But if you scale that 13.1 feet, I guess that's from the edge of the building. I'm sorry, the plans that we were looking at, they kind of look like it's coming from here to there.
yeah.
But I see it's coming from there. Better plans. We have small plans. Okay. So anyway, that access strip that's usable is less than 13 feet. So it's hard to get traffic coming in and traffic coming out. What has been going on is they've been using the gore strip as part of that access way.
I'm
You
sorry,
can see,
what is a gore strip?
okay,
I
a gore
apologize.
strip is a quirk of surveying. It's when you survey properties and you bring the 2 properties together and the corners don't line up. So now you have this no man's land that is undefined. So that, and there's an attorney in the room, that needs to be researched and defined, and how can that be either given to the adjacent property owners? Is it village property? So planning staff doesn't know that at this time, so that needs to be
But-
investigated further.
Realistic, but for non-lawyers, right now it's pretty much just divided in half, and half is used by the old McDonald's property and half is used by Cigar, hypothetically? Like what's actually happening
No,
now?
really all of it is being used to get into the back of the McDonald's.
Okay,
And
the right
of way is to the right of.
The right-of-way is, right-of-way that's going right now, to the right of the gore, and you can see that the fish market put a fence across that right-of-way to the edge of their property. So there's history there, don't know how that history, the applicant could probably advise on the history going back on that. But, so access is coming off their property, they're sharing land off their property to provide the access. So it's a difficult site, and I think we just need to validate the use of that, if nothing else.
yeah, I mean, it definitely needs to be
So just running through
improved so
the
that it
staff
can be
report.
used, right?
So those are some of the issues with regard to the access and the parking. On the south end of the property, the property abuts Mill Creek, so we need a non-jurisdiction letter from the DEC for that. I think that's routine. I think also we would want, the property has access to public water, the property has access to municipal sewer, so we would want just letters of availability for sewer and water. That would be routine. And we would also want some sort of non-jurisdiction or a permit from DOT when they make the access onto 25A. These are all things that we'll be working with the applicant on. I think that, well, staff thinks that an alternative layout might be helpful here, where the handicap access is moved to the west, and put that whole handicap and striping further to the left. That clears up that corner a little bit better for maneuvering, where 2 cars, a car coming in, car coming out. Just frees up that area a little bit better, leaving that space there not as much as a handicap space. So that's one thing we wanted to talk about with the applicant, is an alternative layout. We also think that, just reflecting some of the concerns of the village, that we should get a snow removal plan for the back of that parking lot. And also, we think that we just need a better quote-unquote site plan or a sketch plan as we move through, drawn to scale and stamped and signed, so we can just get a better idea of the dimensions. What we had in the file, when I looked through a magnifying glass and tried to blow it up, obviously was a little bit confusing to staff, so we need a better scale drawing. Okay, and then the staff report just talks about some of the things that were submitted. So I think it's a problematic site. I think there are some things that if we work through, we might be able to make workable for the project. But I think really, I think we do have to address the parking shortfall and how that was addressed in the past, and moving forward, how do we address that? We had another application that had perception of granted forgiveness for the required parking, and if they're gonna roll over into a use, do they have that right for that previous parking grant? So I think we need to address that. And on this application, perhaps the applicant has some information to provide to the board on the prior parking arrangement.
And was the outdoor freezer, was that probably after McDonald's took occupancy?
During the process, I saw the permit for it, I just can't recall the details of it, but it did get a building permit and a CO for it, for the addition of the walk-in freezer.
Yeah, and I guess we had initial conversations with the property owner that perhaps they should investigate purchasing the adjacent fish market property.
It's not for staff to comment, we did suggest that to them,
Yeah.
and this is the application we received, so
Right.
So are
that
you,
might not have worked out.
are you entertaining the idea of requiring a change of use to takeout so that they lower the amount of parking?
No, we're not dealing with the use at this
Okay.
time, we're just dealing with the site plan amendments to this site.
And
At the time they
where-
come in for a use, we will have to address the issues related to the use.
Because, like, I'm assuming there's a certain number of seats in in the restaurant that were allowed. So
No,
if
that's
they're gonna market it, they're gonna say this is a restaurant that has X number of seats. And then that's assuming that they've been granted the parking for those X number of seats.
Well, I don't know how they will market it. The prior restaurant it was classified as a restaurant, had a certain number of seats based on their occupancy,
Right.
based on the fire marshal's determination. So if they want to market it that way, they can, but it's all going to be subject to review on what the use is going to be. That was considered a restaurant. If they want to do takeout, different issues.
Mhm.
So that's all that staff has. I don't know if you'd like to speak with the applicant. It's pre-application conference. If you have questions, I think they'd be directed
Questions?
to.
Yep. Okay. Well, yeah, why don't you just introduce yourself?
Sure.
That's all.
For the applicant, John Farrell with the firm of Songward, Braff, Coscignano. Our offices are at 1300 Vets Highway, Suite 100, Hopog, New York.
Lee, you have a question?
Oh, I wondered if you could take us through the history of the, what you know about the original site plan approval and.
Sure. So on the site plan approval for the McDonald's, they actually had along the east property line 4 parking spaces that were parallel to the building. Then there was about a 22-foot or so gap before you got to the end of the building, and then there were 2 parking spaces directly behind the building, and then another 4 spaces along the back property line. To the left, where that concrete pad is actually it's to the right on here.
Mhm.
That was where the dumpster enclosure was approved. The walk-in freezer was part of that application because McDonald's wouldn't have built this restaurant without a walk-in freezer. That's how they store their food.
So that happened with the initial application.
That was all approved as part of the McDonald's application. This property's had a CO as a restaurant for many years, I think going back to like 1973. So it's my contention that in whatever the parking requirements were in 1973, McDonald's complied and they continued the CO based on that. So there's probably a lower parking demand or something along those lines, but it had COs throughout its entire history. All the renovations, even the sprinkler system, the fire system, all have permits and COs. So my my argument really is this building is CO'd as a restaurant. If we continue the use as a restaurant, I don't know how all these other things play into it, right? I mean, I could make an application for a demolition permit, leave it just take off the freezer, leave it the way it is. And then I don't think it's subject to site plan review at that point. That would be my argument. We are willing to do some things, but, you know, at the end of the day, we viewed this as a very simple application. Remove about 250 square feet that provides no benefit to anyone, and then try and, you know, add a couple of parking spaces, and hopefully that entices somebody to come in. McDonald's left maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I think. They have not had a lot of success with, had a lot of people interested, but at the end of the day, the numbers just didn't work for them and the parking didn't work. So we're looking for a way to kind of entice people to come in and use the site. You know, as far as the 7-foot right-of-way easement, the Fish Company property, according to the historic records, was originally owned by the Water Authority. So I'm not sure what was on that property, perhaps a water tower or some kind of, you know, pumping station or something along those lines. And there's the 7-foot easement, I imagine, is some kind of subsurface infrastructure. But that 7-foot easement goes back to, hang on 1 second. It looks like it goes back to 1925. So it's an old easement. You know, I can't make heads or tails out of it. It looks like the easement document itself is 7 pages long, and it looks like it involves multiple properties and multiple lots and transferring land to the village. And so I can't really tell you in modern terms what it applies to. I know that 7-foot easement was included in it. It was subsequently reinforced, that right-of-way was subsequently reinforced in a later document that was recorded in 1995. But the 1995 document doesn't add any color to the purpose of the right-of-way.
So the right of way is on whose property though?
It's on the adjoining property.
Okay.
Okay, so the 5-foot gore strip, as Mr. Freeling noted, is probably an error of surveying where the map on the left didn't match the map on the right. The 5-foot was left. Technically, I mean, if it's not been dedicated to the village, ownership rights by operation of law go to the adjoining property owners. So I'm not sure if it was a 5-foot gore. 5-foot gore might be all that was left. I can't track that going back that far. I'd have to pull all the old maps to find out. And my client's not inclined to spend that kind of money on that type of research. So really, I mean, we're just looking to take down the freezer and add 2 parking spots. That's really all we want to do. Obviously, if there's a change of use or some kind of change in the parking, we would certainly, you know, come back to the board and do whatever we, you know, have to do. If we, you know, change it to office use, we'd come in for a parking variance, whatever was required at that time. We don't have a tenant, so I can't tell you what it's going to be. I think ideally, we'd like to market it as a restaurant because the equipment's there, the infrastructure's there. So there wouldn't be a lot to change as part of the application.
Cool, sure.
Yeah, so thank you for trying to increase the parking because I think we all as village residents have recognized that that building, I think the reason why it doesn't get tenants is because it's really not workable as a restaurant. So yeah, all we can ask is that you increase the parking, but ultimately it might need something else. Like you know, instead of restaurant sit down, maybe takeout or some
Yeah, I
other
mean,
type.
McDonald's was a takeout. It didn't really work. That was the
Well,
problem.
McDonald's is more of a drive-through kind of thing.
Right.
right?
Right.
And I, it all makes sense that it's close to parking, there's on-street parking there, and it's close to the municipal lot, but for some reason, being on West Broadway, it's just not the same feel. You have to walk farther, from the municipal lot. There's really never any parking along that street, and if you do want to try and park there, it's very difficult to try and get in or out of those parking spaces. So, appreciate the extra parking spaces, but, ultimately, hopefully it'll work.
Well, look, the reality is if we make these changes and it doesn't draw any tenants, there's gonna have to be other plans considered,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean,
which
because
probably
if
more
something
extreme.
really good comes in, a lot of people from the ferry might be able to walk over there. I mean, I think it all depends on what it is, yeah.
Yeah, we're in a tough spot. My client, I don't think fully understood that, with McDonald's there as a tenant, it was good for a while, but when McDonald's went out, it's just very difficult to get rid of, so.
Question? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
What?
I
Ah.
remember, there was an Italian restaurant there too.
Yeah,
Was
I
that,
think
was that it?
That was, yeah, you had Dare Schooner, which was Winston's, I think.
Yeah, the original school became
Yeah.
the German restaurant, and then it's not yet built.
Right, right.
Yeah.
The Lutzon's is where the Indian restaurant is,
Right,
but that spot was an Italian restaurant before McDonald's.
right. Yeah, it was the
Something.
American Schooner.
Is
I
that-
just remember it
Who
being.
built the building? Who built that building? Who built that
Oh,
it
they
looks brand new.
renovated it.
They,
The American.
Because the
They rent-
schooner, I remember the schooner was a boat
Yeah.
that sat parallel to the
Yes,
river.
Right,
yes, it
but
was.
that's-
That was, I think, really where Village Hall is.
Mhm.
That boat. And I don't know who built the building, but McDonald's did a substantial renovation to an existing building.
Right.
Because the prior restaurant was essentially on the same footprint.
Yep.
Which restaurant was it that had that dolphin in front of it and then we put a bucket
Might
on
have been,
its head?
might have been that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. A long time ago.
How pretty. it
Tell you that.
Okay, last, certainly not least, Mather Hospital. Yeah, why don't we wait a minute for Laura to come back?
A lot of technical information in there.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, taking a nap, trying to take a nap.
There's a couple of small sections of road between like south. On the east side of 112, south. They were cut throughs. Nobody ever owned them. People used it and 20 years ago. They came up because the Jason owners were annoying people were parking their boats and stuff.
right.
It turned out the property, I don't know what it eventually ended up, but it was actually technically still owned by the original owner of the land in 1600. I don't know if they ever found it. But give it to them, those to the owner.
Yeah.
Can a gore get taken by adverse possession? I wonder. I mean, if it's being used.
Yeah, I mean, something like a prescriptive easement, like like over 10 years of use, becomes your use. You know, that could be in there, but it's more of a attorney to look into.
It's split between each.
Normally, that's what would happen.
All right, so for
Okay.
Mather, a lot of technical information.
You on?
Yeah, it's
Okay, sorry.
I'm just gonna go a little high level, just to kind of refresh everybody where
Yeah.
we were. And when the
Yep.
original resolution was approved, the DRA was a consideration of that with conditions within that resolution. I gave you all those conditions in there, but simply put, it was supposed to be worked and designed with the consultant hired by the village, working with Mather, because there are shared services within that DRA. We know the county of North Country Road ties into it.
And the DRA is the drainage recharge.
Drainage retention area, that's correct, that's correct. Due to all the reconfiguration that Mather is doing with the ED expansion, some of the parameters that DRA changed, they put other drainage in further up, including storm traps, traditional drainage and whatnot. We started reviewing, as per that resolution, what needs to be done for this DRA. Now, that is attached to that resolution and the approval that they have in place right now. So as we're going through this, Mather Hospital is looking to obtain their CO as we negotiate back and forth what we're doing with that retention area. So we've reviewed with the Stormwater Office of Management. We reviewed with some New York State Stormwater Design Manuals. We're looking at redevelopment versus new development, and we've determined what needs to be a minimum rainfall count in there. As we're negotiating all this, the village, the mayor, reached out and found that the state is offering grants for work in this nature. Since the resources are to be shared, certain percentages back and forth between the village and Mather, we engaged with the grant writer to put together an application, which was filed a little over a month ago, to do this. The requirement on that is to design it to a new development rainfall amount. That would be the full 9 inches, and capture all that area in there. So at this point, because we're still negotiating back and forth, we don't know where the grant is going. We hope we're going to get approved. There is significant monies that are involved with this. We'd like to remove the DRA at this point in the resolution and file it separately once we understand what's going to happen with the grant. So we can make that a condition in there that it has to be filed separately and approved after the grant. You know, we can put timeframes and whatnot and attach that in there. But at this point, we're just looking to remove the DRA from the initial approval so that Mather can get their CO and funding and all their approvals in New York State and Department of Health.
So once Mather gets their CO, why would they ever come back and
'Cause it's gonna
try
be-
and improve
we're
the
gonna put-
DRA?
There's future work that they're doing there. It's conditional work. It's conditional work in there. You can go after them. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
But would we?
That's not for me to determine.
Okay, 'cause, I mean, this has been my fear about this whole project, is that
Yeah.
it's
Right
not
now-
going to get addressed, and that, once they get,
No,
I
something,
mean,
no.
in history, Mather has
So
not,
what's going to happen is something's going to be done there, all right? We have preliminary designs on this. We've been reviewing them back and forth with the engineering team. We have done percolation tests. We have a understanding that wicks need to be installed. We have done, personally in my office, we looked at, with the percolation results, putting in the wicks, doing nothing to that DRA, how much drainage we can get in there, and it's a significant increase in what you have right now. Significant, almost double.
putting of wicks in.
Yes, correct. All right, so.
Tom, when you were explaining this, it sounded like it was Jeff's project or Port Jeff's idea rather than Mather. Is it Mather came to Port Jefferson?
No,
with
we
this?
were in the process of negotiating the requirements for the design for the DRA, what is required by New York State, DEC, and all that. In the process of doing that, the grant option came to the table. And since we can get this to a higher degree and the ultimate design of capacity on this, if we get grant money, it's an ideal situation for everybody to do.
So
Worst
was it-
case,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
worst
go ahead.
case, we would design it to it's about a 2/3 of what that grant design capacity would have been.
So it
but
was
it's
a
still more than
joint
what it was.
kind of effort.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So some of the information provided to the grant was done by the VHB, by the engineer.
Okay, so usually what happens with grants is that the grant money is dependent on the project being done, right?
No,
No?
not in this case. We did provide costs and budgets and estimates for what it's going to cost to do this. along with the initial design.
But isn't this project held by the grant holder?
Well, as far as the money's being released and whatnot, they won't be released till the work is done. That's correct. But you'll get an understanding if you are going to get that grant.
Okay.
Is Northwell Mather willing to expend the extra dollars to go to the 9-inch
That's up.
design?
In fact, I know there's been negotiations behind the scenes on a percentage of sharing of what ultimately is going to be done, because that language is put in the initial resolution that there would be shared services on this, not including design, construction, and maintenance of it. So
And that-
whether you do the 9-inch or we just put the wicks into, you're still gonna have shared maintenance on this.
Right.
But by doing it to the 9-inch, it is a significant increase in cost.
So, I mean, shouldn't we try to get to understand whether or not they're prepared to share in that
Oh, they-
upgrade?
Oh,
They are.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
we've had a few meetings
Yes.
with the hospital.
Oh, no, the sole
And-
cost, that's not on the grant. There are percentages that have been established, and that I believe the attorneys are working on the actual legal agreement for that.
Right. And I think, you know, some of the, as Tom, I think, explained, was some of this is to offset costs to the village for participating in this work. The Mather, you know, has worked with the village, I think, in good faith in trying to move this thing forward. You know, certainly if there's a reticence to release this from the CO, I would say if there is no action by the next phase, which, you know, might be a few more years out, then I think, you know, you could attach it to that phase if you really want to. But I think my impression is they've moved forward. We have a couple of good plans. It's really the ability to get the funding that becomes the issue, and it's really more so
And
for the village than.
understand,
than-
we're doing no work to this DRA as it stands now. The other work that they've done, I'll call it upstream,
Right.
has significantly reduced the amount of water that's going in there. So they've already been proactive in reducing the amount of water that goes in that DRA.
So can I ask a question? With your staff report?
Yes.
that so it looks like there's 3 different options. Are you?
I just
telling
included
one
them
per-
in there. Right now, we're looking at the option to do the grant. We needed to do the 9-inch rainfall for the complete area.
So that doesn't list as an option. So my question is, it says DRA capacity conforming to the DEC requirement, 9-inch rainfall, but that's the first bullet.
Yeah.
That's like not it doesn't, I didn't know if then the options 1, 2, and 3 were under that?
No, so
Or
those
if they were
options.
other than-
They were doing other work there. Right now, the crown of the road, it gets very technical, but they were gonna reduce the amount of water that goes into the DRA by reducing the village's contribution to that. Then the village would be required to put their own drainage in to compensate for that was taken off. Those were the other options, but we're not going to
Okay,
do that.
yeah, because where would we put,
Yeah,
okay. So those other options are just,
they were for reference.
okay.
Just showing what, with all the background working that we've been doing with the engineer. And like Gil said, they've been working in very good faith with us. So the only thing we're looking to do now is remove the work to the DRA, make it conditional that it will be addressed when the grant is approved and be handled as a separate project.
So then would we need like a bond? Because what if,
We have a bond in place for the work already, that it did
Okay.
include this. In fact, if anything,
So-
it might be a bond reduction because then there would be a new bond put in for the new project.
because once someone has a CO, what's the, I mean, I just don't, I don't understand.
They are gonna come back for another phase.
Okay,
That eventually, this was if I remember right, it was a 3-pronged phase.
Right.
So this first phase is where we developed, or started talking about the planning. We attached it to the second phase being that they get their CO and then they can start doing their internal construction. And then the third phase would be, you know, replacing or redoing the front end where the pavilion is, you know, they can
oh,
go
the
with it.
existing,
Right.
okay.
So they, you know, they are coming back.
And don't forget, the initial resolution said it's going to be done.
Right.
I mean, that's really the way that was written, and it was never clearly defined what's being done. We have a clearer picture of what is going to be done now. It's really 1 or 2 options depending on the grant.
Right.
And if we didn't get the grant, it would reduce the amount of options, but there still would be progress moving forward
Correct.
to get some improvements, whether it's wicking in or however we eventually decide.
Minimum wicking and cleanup of
Right.
the site there, yeah.
Right.
Another, just a thought, enter into this agreement, within short order, allowing the village a certain amount of time to put the grant into place. If they don't, if we're unsuccessful in getting the grant within a certain period of time, we then just move forward with,
You can put that language in there, that's
and
fine.
that way you're
covered.
going.
Yeah.
you know, right.
So we're gonna ask the applicant to submit a map showing this, because right now, the approved site plan indicates the work to the DRA. They'll include a narrative with that, I'll circulate that to everybody, and then we can amend the existing resolution to do that work as a separate project. They'll probably be on the next October meeting.
I'm okay with that.
The
Sounds good.
applicants are here, if you have any questions, but I think, no, okay. That's it, that's all I got.
Any comments, Anthony, or anyone else? No? Leave quickly. Excuse me.
My heart and soul in this project.
I think we're finished, so motion to adjourn? Anyone else?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Makes sense.